Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Montmanex.
We're just a couple of Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by offering our spoiler-free take on the latest film releases.
Plus, any other media we've ingested over the past week.
Whether that's the latest buzzworthy show,
An album that's been on constant rotation,
that indie darling no one can shut up about,
a cute romantic comedy,
or the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all. $1 at a time.
My house got robbed.
What did they take?
My grandma's silver.
Did you call the authorities?
Yeah.
The world is bigger than your silverware.
Open sesame. Gotcha.
Vigilante action's a good way to get your wig knocked off.
You have beautiful eyes, okay?
What do you want?
For people to not be assholes. I'm not letting you shoot anyone. Anyone else.
So I just gotta start this episode off by apologizing for how long it took me to get on my mic. I was taking a dookie.
I don't need to know that. It wasn't even that
I'm just
long.
saying.
You've been later than this. This is not even late. This was more like...
If our listeners laughed, that was probably the only kind of humor they'd get about this film, because this is a very, very bleak movie.
I mean, you know,
I don't feel at home in this world anymore, especially with the lack of laughter.
It's offbeat. I mean, you know, after what you said about Captain Fantastic being hipster, that was going through my mind for most of this movie. I'm like, no. This is way more offbeat. Captain Fantastic might be about strange people, but this, just as far as its humor and just random. I mean,
at least there's a black person in this one.
There's
two.
yeah.
And a mixed race child.
Well,
so on all
good on you,
accounts,
movie.
more
2
American.
black people and a crap load of white people. Well, I don't care.
This was filmed in the Pacific Northwest, also. Just
yeah,
saying.
true.
So,
I know. Yeah,
Portland.
Okay, but Macon Blair, man.
Interesting
Yeah,
dude.
I guess it really didn't strike me until the end of it, where I was like, oh right, that's the guy in Green Room and Blue Ruin
and Horror Party, which you haven't
which
seen.
I've not seen. Yeah, but then it all clicked after
You should.
that.
You'll totally check it out this Halloween. It's a real fun. Like, I said it during the 2 cents or whatever that I saw that for this past year. Just from a tonal standpoint, is so different from the other things that Jeremy Saulnier's done. And his next one that Macon Blair actually wrote, well, adapted anyway, about it's like tracking down some wolves that killed a family or something like that, into the woods or something about the woods. I can't remember. I saw it on IMDb real quick, but they work together. They have a relationship.
They're childhood friends.
Yeah, it's like Blue Ruin. Macon Blair's the star in both Green Room and Horror Party. He's kind of like on the side, a little character that's
though. Like, he definitely
sort of like, I mean,
along,
his character's importance is just as high in Horror Party, all right, but he's not pivotal. And here, it's all him. It's the Macon Blair show. He even gets a really cool cameo, which I'm sure you caught. But this has a great cast, and this is kind of becoming par for the course for Netflix. This is a Sundance selection. Yeah, Elijah Wood, Melanie Lynskey, Jane Levy, a.k.a. Ash 2.0 in Evil Dead. I didn't even realize that was her until I was doing some IMDb stuff. And I guess she's in Don't Breathe also, so she has a good relationship with Fede Alvarez. But this is a weird, like, kind of feels like a Jeremy Saulnier movie almost. Just
only at
very
the end.
Downtrodden, bleak. It's like, it's shot really well. There's great actors. And it kind of takes you into the underbelly of our current world, and the whole idea of this film is, man, everyone's an asshole, but there are actual bad people out there. Just because you're an asshole doesn't mean you're evil, you know?
Yeah.
Let's show you like the other side of the coin, and then turns into this really bizarre, almost like a vigilante movie, and it kind of works for me. I was never bored.
I was kind of just okay with it at first, and it really wasn't until that last third that I was like, holy shit, this is pretty awesome.
It's getting good.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess the difference, even though it's not that fair to compare them, but compared to like Green Room or Blue Ruin, those are tightly scripted, like, especially in the case of Green Room, where it's just, you're always watching to see where that goes and how the whole situation is going to play out. This just bounces around, and it's
kinda
pretty
like,
weird. And I don't
breadcrumbs.
have problems with it, but it is just kind of like, I guess it's fine. I wasn't that into it for the most part until it really escalated in the end and just went batshit crazy.
It takes a little while for you to or not for you, but for it to find its
It
footing.
takes one direction and then just
Yeah.
abandons it for something else. So I guess it has that unpredictability aspect to it.
The idea that I saw was, here's the world, here's the character, here we're gonna establish the tone, and then just life comes at you real fast. What are you gonna do now? And it's funny because Macon Blair, this is actually inspired by him, so I guess this isn't technically a spoiler. When someone broke into his house once upon a time, stole his laptop, he called the police, and they did pretty much nothing to help him. So
If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
pretty much.
Yeah, which I mean, that's the main thing that I got from this movie right away.
Yeah.
That was pretty clear.
But I like these little moments, like in the grocery store and on, like almost like Office Space-esque, like on the way to work, like seeing the assholes changing lanes, like those little things that are still just as big a problem about your everyday life. Like how many times have you listened to me either before or after the show complain about, oh, fucking at work, like it does a really good job of kind of portraying those problem childs in the world. You get some like cool, not cool necessarily, but you get like a little bit of dialogue in the film too about that. It's like, don't blame me. Like, do you have any kids? Then you don't understand what that's like.
Well, yeah, it's just you never know what somebody's situation is. Like, you know what? To quote Max Landis again, even in real life, not just the internet, don't assume somebody else's reality.
Oh, that was a really good tweet.
That really has stuck with me.
This film kind of is understated too, despite it. Like I kind of listed off the people in this that you'll know even at face value, especially if you've seen their work. Like Elijah Wood, he's fucking Frodo. He's in Back to the Future Part 2. He's in that movie that I try to watch, Open Windows, that's directed by Nacho Vigalodondo. He's in a lot of things, but his career's really interesting. Like out of every person out there that's ever been in a hugely successful blockbuster franchise, he's almost under the radar somehow.
Well,
like he's still able to pick little projects like these, and people don't make a big deal about this because
he kind of he does more fan base stuff, or I guess stuff where he just knows a fan base might be attracted to. Yeah, like he's always been described as a geek in many of the online websites I've read, but I don't really know much about the guy. I just know that he's really well liked in the blogging community.
I've seen an interview or two. Like he's real passionate. Like he's funny. Like he's not much older than we are. He was just a child star, and he kind of grew into fame, and he didn't let it eclipse him. But you got him. You got Melanie and Lynskey, also really under the radar. She might be on like the Duplass brothers' Togetherness. But in terms of movies, outside of Heavenly Creatures, she's totally underutilized. Like, she's nowhere. And also, she never uses her real speaking voice. Like, besides Heavenly Creatures, I don't think I've ever heard her speak with a Kiwi accent. She's always Americanized, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. And we talked about it before. What else? What movie did we bring this up? I can't remember.
Oh, she's in Detroit Rock City.
That's it.
She's also in The Frighteners, which you still have to see. I'm not gonna buy it. It's definitely dime a dozen.
Yeah, I mean, I can enthusiastically recommend that third act. Everything else, I'm just kind of like, it's more like, hey, if you're having a long day and you need something on, then I guess knowing some people, they can toss this on and they're probably going to be distracted. Sad to say, but then that third act, they'll pay attention.
It's the perfect Netflix movie where you could easily watch this in pieces and it's still going to have a good payoff, but it knows, it's so conscious of the fact if you sit with it for long enough, the payoff is so good that it's a total deserving 95 minutes or whatever it is. Maybe not the final shot, but outside of that, just the tension that it builds up in that final third, especially on the island, which kind of reminded me in a minor way of Black Rock. Did you see that? Directed by Katie Aselton, Mark Duplass's wife.
I have not.
No?
Really
interesting
about Bad
movie.
Day at Black Rock for a second, which is
maybe the title's inspired by that. But
that one has an awesome standoff.
It's written by a woman, directed by a woman, almost entirely a female cast. It has Lake Bell, Katie Aselton, I forget who the other two are. And the idea of that film, it might be on Netflix still, is a group of 4 friends from I think either high school or college go out to this island to have a girl retreat to hang out, and then they encounter some dudes. And hey, they're on a secluded island. Guess what happens? And it's a really smart thriller. It's engaging, and the ending of this kind of it had shades of that for me. If you got Netflix, and we say this a lot when it's a streaming title, because hey, you don't actually pay for it, or better yet, you are paying for it. You might as well take advantage of those things that are only on there. Yeah,
like you probably watched something that you wanted to watch and liked already. You got extra time to give things a chance for that price point.
And this is a quick 90 minutes. That's like 2 episodes of House of Cards. I say it's definitely worth a watch if you're a fan of Jeremy Saulnier. If you don't know the name, but you've heard of Blue Ruin or Green Room, check this out. Check those out. Just really, really good thrillers, like genre thrillers, to be honest.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to go wrong about it. Great cast, great chemistry, just interesting world. Like, not to bring him up again, but Max Landis actually went like on a tweet storm when he saw this on Netflix, and I think the thing that stuck out to me and why it went even higher on my radar after its initial Sundance acclaim was he was like, this is probably the film, one of the only films I've seen recently that's very sure of itself. Like, it is fully aware of the tone that it's trying to convey. And I agree. Like, there's no guesswork here. Even though this is Macon Blair's first feature film, it doesn't seem like it.
No,
it's really put together well.
It's, even though it goes all over the place and it's not, it's not really a straight line. Like, I don't think, kind of like how the script for Green Room is just so fucking smart as far as how it's put together, even aspects of Blue Ruin. A lot of that comes across here, especially with the clues that are put together, or, little ideas like, even if it seems weird and off the cuff for a bit, just like, when she goes in and, picks up that cereal box with that sticker police badge, and then how that's utilized later, and small things like that where it's like, okay, these characters are always at least thinking outside the box of what to do, and it works. Or
thinking inside the box in that case.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, but I mean, it's like, I don't know. It is a weird, there's a bit of a bitter taste there for me, I guess, because,
it's a strange movie.
Yeah, I mean, and then it wasn't really until like the end where I was just really satisfied with where it ended up. But yeah, it also, even though it might overdo it a bit, because every single second is just someone dealing with all that frustrations that you have in adulthood with other people, like whether it be at the supermarket or just waiting in traffic. It's like, and I get it, you gotta have those little details for relatability, but when it's every single scene and every single aspect, there's just something about it that seems kind of overboard, and almost like the movie itself is being whiny to me when I'm watching it. But I think I get it, because it's, it has to be there for relatability. It's not like the real world is like that every fucking time.
Have you seen Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
Oh yeah. But
so I saw, like, that's a much more whatchamacallit,
it's a darker flick.
It's a darker version of this, but it's the same idea. It's like when life pushes you a little too far, just these little things are just further and further and further, and you just lose hope in the world. Like, literally, like, I don't feel at home in this world anymore. You have to do something. You gotta shake up your life and shake up the world.
Literally, in this point where the police won't help you, if they're not going to do shit about it, you have to do it yourself. But I mean, I don't know. Falling Down's a bit of like...
Falling Down is a man's version of this story. This is a woman. This is also what it's like to be her. And then it's kind of like in Falling Down...
It's an exploitation example, too, where you're really looking forward to that rampage.
Oh, yeah. When he gets that rocket launcher, man. Something's going to happen. That movie, when's the last time you saw that?
Fast food scene. I've only seen it once.
Go on YouTube, rewatch that opening sequence. It's a continuous shot
and then he just gets
gridlock
out of the car.
Traffic.
No, it's awesome.
It totally sells you on why this guy would fucking go nuts.
I think I don't know if I told you this, actually. I might have told Blake, but I was texting him actually while I was watching the movie, and I was thinking like, wow, this is so freaking awesome and dark. Like, this guy should have made a Batman movie in the 90s. Oh,
he did make a Batman movie in the 90s.
They got him to do it 2 years later, and I was like, yeah, no wonder he would be the perfect fit to do it. And then his ideas of Batman were different than,
hey,
I guess.
Once upon a time, we did a commentary on Batman Forever.
We did.
Blame your computer for that. Yeah. It could be on the internet.
Hey, we can do that now, though.
No, I'm not going to fucking do it again.
If we can maybe try one every 2 months. I don't know. One day, maybe.
Maybe one day.
Patreon,
maybe.
Might have to
actually, that's like a really...
something.
That is actually a really good Patreon idea. Talking about Patreon, last week I did my Until Dawn PSVR live stream on Twitch. This week I did one again today, actually. Matter of fact, earlier before this recording. The biggest PlayStation Virtual Reality launch this year, unless they announce something big at E3 next month, is Farpoint. It's a big AAA first-person shooter that actually comes bundled with what they call the PSVR aim controller. It's a real gun. I already had one. I have the one for the PS3, which is modular. You got to put in the Move controllers. It has like a real stock. It feels and looks like a real rifle. This looks like a kid's toy, but that doesn't matter because when you're in VR, it looks like whatever they want you to look like it. So you can go on. I'm going to try to make an actual video review using the footage that I've recorded from the broadcast. But you can actually watch an hour of my gameplay. I played the first 2 missions. I played around the menus a little bit. I did the settings. I did a lot of stuff. And because I was streaming it, I'm doing commentary every once in a while, too, when I'm not all the way in it. But basically, looks really pretty. I have to imagine on PS4 Pro, which I don't have, it's truly gorgeous. Like, I had some issues in the beginning because it starts off very slow. You're in this spaceship and it's trying to set up the story. But just in terms of what I've seen so far, I've done 2 missions. Like I said, I think there's a total of 6 or 7. So it's a fairly short game. If you run through it and you're just going and you're like, I don't know if you can skip cinematics, but if you are doing that, I think it clocks in at about like 5 hours, 4.5 hours. But then there's also challenge modes, so you can play all the missions again with goals, like 3 stars, kind of like Angry Bird style. There's a co-op mode with 4 different missions, so you can actually play online with someone else. In terms of control, it's a little weird. You have lots of different options depending on how comfortable you are acclimated to virtual reality experiences. So the way I did it is smooth turning / no turning. You kind of steer with your head. The controller itself is probably the selling point. The bundle is only $80. The game by itself is $50. That means the controller is only $30. And by the controller by itself, it's flipped. The controller is $50 and then the game's $50. So you're going to want to get a bundle if you can. It's too late to pre-order now. Like I said, it's already out there. But yeah, the controller literally has every single PS4, like the DualShock 4, the PS4 controller. It has every single one of those buttons with the exception of the touchpad. And the battery life's really good. When I played for that 2 hours or whatever it was, hour and a half. But like a big surprise too, everyone thought this was going to be the only game at launch. No, they put a game on the PlayStation Network called Dick Wild, which is on HTC Vive and Oculus Rift. That's out today also. You can pick that up. I think it's like $10, $20. They have another one. They have like 3 other games in the pipeline that we know about with release dates that are already using this brand new controller. The game so far is all right. You know, you're on a moon of Jupiter. There's a story that I don't want to talk about because it's, hey, this is $1 views. We don't talk about that kind of thing. But basically, all I gotta know is kind of Starship Troopers-esque. You're on this planet with some spider-like creatures. It's not scary. That's not the word I'm going to use. But it's tense, especially the musical cues. Like I said, you got to go out and watch this archive footage. You can go to twitch.tv/cstrife991. You can also go to youtube.com/$review. It's on there both ways. I'm probably going to stream it again, if not later today, tomorrow. I'll tweet that out, though. I didn't tweet it earlier because I don't know. I wasn't sure. I did get a little nauseous just because, and once again, I say this during the broadcast, you're moving the gun. Wherever the gun goes, it's 1-to-1. It's perfect, unless like you're turned backwards. Mm-hmm. But it does a good job of showing you what you're seeing. It's the first game that I've actually played where it allows you to see where the actual PlayStation camera is, so you always know, like, quote unquote, where true north is. But yeah, the gun, super responsive. The trigger, it's awesome. You want to aim down sights, bring it up to your face. You want to just aim, like hip fire, do that. It vibrates. When you switch to a shotgun, it feels differently. Rocket launchers, grenades, all kinds of stuff. I said it out loud during my broadcast. I really hope that they bring a PvP, a person versus person, a competitive game out for the controller soon, because it would really sell the system. What's impressive here though is it's developed by Impulse Gear, and this is seriously like their first game they've ever made. They worked with Sony on the controller. This is a first-party title. It's not going to go to other VR platforms. Like I said, check out the gameplay. Really impressed so far. Not as good as I thought it was going to be, but then again, I think that's just the pacing. It takes about 20 minutes to get like fully into the game. It really takes you to the shallow end and lets you walk in to get immersed, because it starts off like on a spaceship and you're watching like found footage from a distance, and then it gets closer to you and closer to you and closer to you and closer to you and does like a Wizard of Oz thing where then boom, now it's VR, which is kind of cool. Except I know this is a system seller, but I doubt that most people that are playing this picked up their PSVR strictly for this game and this controller. And so for me, someone who's been playing this stuff for like 6 months now, even if I didn't have the actual gun in my hands, it felt like training wheels almost, and I kind of didn't like it. I'm sure it makes it more cinematic for first-time players, and it's going to make their dollar go a long, long way. But for me, I was just kind of like, okay, can I get to the aliens now? I don't want to walk around secluded, but you really feel like you're on this Jupiter-esque planet. The sandstorms and the dirt around you, the particle effects, it looks really good on my quote unquote budget headset.
It sounds really good for that.
Oh yeah, the fucking spiders, man. That's like the big thing that I talk about during that first gameplay. The sound design on them. You can hear them scurrying and jumping, like, because they literally jump at you, and it's pretty intimidating. I talk about that too in the first broadcast I did. Really good sound design. You know, with the 3D audio, you know exactly where someone is, above you, below you, behind you. You can hear it. It's great. The gun reloading, like I was kind of blown away, because you can do this thing that I learned from a PlayStation live stream. If your first gun runs out of ammo, you can initialize the reload, like switch out for your other gun. Like the way you do that is literally taking your controller, reaching behind your head, like you're putting them on your back, and then you have a new one. So when I did that with my shotgun, and I had my assault rifle in my hands, I could actually hear the shotgun still reloading on my back. I was like, wow, that's fucking cool. Like like even Dolby Atmos can't capture what this is like. PSVR is still like at the top of the game in terms of what Sony's done with their 360/3D audio. Just, I have nitpicks which you can see in the gameplay, like in terms of first I had some camera issues and I got a little nauseous just because of the locomotion, but like I said, they're nitpicks. Like if you turn and you see your shadow, the shadow's not convincing in terms of the legs, but the gun is still awesome. Like literally, it's 1-to-1 movement. You can do stupid stuff, twirling it, doing all kinds of stupid things, and it knows. You can set up when you're doing your height and everything if you're left or right-handed. The controller's ambidextrous, which is cool. Definitely buy it for $1 if you have a PSVR. Better yet, if you don't have PSVR and you just have a PlayStation 4. This is the game to get. This is going to sell the headset, at least right now. And then the controller itself, which is available on its lonesome on Amazon, I'm sure GameStop and Best Buy and all the other retailers are going to get it eventually. It's a great peripheral. In terms of the weird motion controllers that I've used from Sony in the past, and I own just about all of them, it's really put together well. I wish that it felt a little better. Like the weight is great, the distribution is awesome. It's just like in terms of the manufacturing, there's some maybe mine's different from everyone else's, but there's some sharp edges like on the side of the trigger, for instance. Like if you want to wrap your finger around it, there's a little bit, like I wish I had like some sandpaper perhaps to sand it down. But yeah, I got no complaints. It's typical VR. It could be so far. It could be a little bit better. Like some of the things that I don't like are, like I said, I've done 2 missions. There's no real indicator that the mission ends. There isn't like a mission finalized screen where you get to see your accuracy or how many people you killed or like how much damage you took or how many secrets you found or anything like that. There's nothing, which is pretty commonplace for a first-person shooter. It doesn't matter if it's Call of Duty or Doom or whatever. When that first story, whenever your chapters are done, you get some kind of screen to indicate that. And instead here what you get is you play this section, here's the holographic like cutscene, here's another section, here's another hologram. It all looks good though. It's a very, very pretty game. I'm sure I'm gonna go for the platinum trophy on this one. I'll see what it's like when I do the co-op and stuff. So like I said, if you're curious about this gameplay, just check it out. I'll be tweeting it out. Twitch.tv/STRIFE991. I did one other thing that's brand new this week too, and that was binge Master of None Season 2 in one fucking sitting. I did that Friday. I did that Friday night after I got off work. I stayed up till like 7 a.m. watching it, and I went to work super tired on Saturday, and it was well worth it. Do you remember me talking about the first season forever ago, like 2 years
Yeah.
ago almost?
Has it been 2 years? I want to say it was 1 year. Like
No,
last
it's
year,
been a
maybe?
year
Is
and a
it
half.
Really that long?
Mm-mm. It
Wow.
wasn't this past November. It was the one before that. Just by happenstance, I don't even know how I found it. I was on looking at some of our old episodes, and I found the 2 Cents episodes on accident. I literally did. I was like, huh. But yeah, Master of None Season 2, I mentioned this on our 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days episode. I mentioned it on my letterbox review for that. There's some cringeworthy moments in Master of None. Just, you're like, it's so fucking awkward. But from beginning to end, it's so cinematic. It is so realized. The writing is so good, and it's worth noting that the best episode is not even written by Aziz Ansari. It's actually done by, I'm gonna butcher her name, man. It's hard to pronounce. Yeah, her name's Lena Waithe, and she plays like Aziz's best black friend, like best friend who happens to be black, like their childhood friends. And she's also a lesbian. That's something that isn't like a mystery on the first season. But she directed this episode called Thanksgiving on this one, and I tweeted about this. Like, it is the window into the gay black community that everyone thought Moonlight was, or better yet, what that Moonlight thought it was. Just it checks all the boxes. How do parents and friends feel about people coming out when they're black? How does the black community? What are the problems there? Like, it does a timeline. It starts in the mid 90s and it goes all the way to 2017 even. It goes future. How it evolves in her family and her character's family is so amazing. It is one of the best episodes I've ever seen on TV, and this is just 30 minutes out of one season, and the rest, more than half of the episodes likewise, are just amazing. The season starts off, to kind of like a spoiler for the first season, it ends with Aziz's character Dev flying to Italy to like just start his life over somewhere else. And so this first episode starts in Italy in black and white. It has a title, says The Thief. It does this slide across his bedroom because he's like waking up with this like gag with his alarm clock not going
there's
off.
a ton of Criterion Italian
Yes.
films on it. Yeah, I saw
So
that.
on his bedside table, you got La Ventura, Rome Open City, The Bicycle Thief. I forget what the other two are. Like, it's
There's La Strada, Eight and a
La
Half,
Strada,
some
Eight and a Half.
a lot of Fellini
Yeah,
stuff in
that's
there.
it. Yeah, it's those five. So it's the who's who of Italian neorealism, and the episode's in black and white, and it's in Italy, and it's in Italian. Just so smart. It's based on Aziz Ansari going to Italy after Master of None season 1 and his experiences there. They literally, he got paid to do it again. That's how smart he is. But it kind of makes you fall in love with the artistry that goes into this season, because the episodes stand alone are just so fucking smart. There's one, I forget what the title. It's like Love or something, and it just goes through what like Tinder is like for our generation. That's the whole episode. It's like a scatterbrain. It's one story, but the girls flip in terms of the other dates based on who he's with and what that experience is like, because that's kind of what it is. Like, it's really bizarre. There's this episode called New York, I Love You, which is kind of similar, except it has different protagonist point of views. Of note, too, when we're talking the other day during the Tribe for Death to Cinema, I can't think of any other movies that do deaf characters. We forgot to mention, what's it
Hush.
called? Not Mute. Hush on Netflix.
Yeah.
But this episode goes a step past Hush, a step past The Tribe. I'm not sure I exactly liked it, but it has a deaf character, and there is no audio at all for her time on screen. It's all signed. There is sign language because, hey, like The Tribe is a special case. But it almost makes you feel sick in terms of, like, this isn't right. Why am I watching something but I can't hear it? And it totally gets you into that, what it must be like to be a deaf person. And that's just one segment of that episode. There's like 4 others.
Or were you watching that with your headphones too?
No, it's TV. I don't care. It's TV. But yeah, the episodes are so good. There's a couple of like there are some smudges. Okay, like it's not a perfect show. Neither was the first season. There's like Aziz casts people he knows, sometimes family members, in particular his dad and mom, and they're fine. But there's some like amateurish acting. Like I said, it is cringeworthy at times because you just can't believe what the fuck is going on. But outside of those little like problems, on the whole, just like the first season, it's so fucking good. Like some of the best TV I've ever seen. I still haven't seen Don Glover's Atlanta, but this is so good just in terms of what I watch. It's not exactly a romantic comedy, but it is about romance and it is comedic. And it's someone who's not much older than us, kind of just navigating what it means to be a young adult or a maturing adult. I'm in LA, he's in New York. It's so good. Like, I don't know if a third season's gonna happen. It has to. I think they could do a movie just as easily to summarize everything that's going on. Aziz already said himself, like, he needs time off. Like, he might have to get married or have a kid or something to really go the next step.
Well,
but
this really didn't come out a year exactly after the first season came out, so that's them already. That's a sign that they're willing to be patient enough.
Using it as a cousin TV show, Don Glover's Atlanta is also not coming this next year because he's busy doing so many things that they don't care what he's doing as long as it comes eventually. And I think that's going to be the new route of TV, because for every like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt or House of Cards, which is on a timetable every year just like regular television is, when you have these more artistic, almost auteur
it's funny,
shows.
Movies are not about that anymore. Now it seems like it's TV, because movies, it'd be nice if they did that, but it's more about the franchises and the property getting put out there.
It's less, you know, for like every Dunkirk you have fucking King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, you know? So and that's the same studio, mind you.
Yeah.
So
Warner Brothers
audiences,
is good at taking risks.
It's the problem isn't even the studios or the filmmakers. I think it's more so the audience. Like, people want a big blockbuster every month now. And then on Netflix, when you have something like this, even though I saw it this past week and I was so in love with it, I already know that a week from now, everyone that wanted to see it is going to already seen it, and no one's going to care anymore. Like, that's kind of just how the world is nowadays.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel at home in this world anymore. But yeah, no, I gotta buy for $1. Gotta buy the first season for $1. So good. Some of the best TV on Netflix in particular. What about you though? What'd you check out this week?
Well, you know, I tried to finally watch Guardians 2, and I've been so busy that it's just been hard for me to sit down and find time. And you know, my conditions for Guardians 2 are that I want to see it in 3D, and sadly 3D screenings are limited, and even
They're
right
about
now
to die.
it looks like they don't even exist now.
Pretty much.
I had my ticket, and Alamo doesn't let you in late, which, you know, I don't think that's that bad a policy. I can't complain because, hey, there is that benefit of, hey, if you walk in late, you're kind of fucking up the experience for yourself, which, you know what, in some ways I am grateful for that. And I also actually like it that,
I mean,
you don't have people scattering around in
true,
seats even while you're watching the movie.
Except,
so, hey, when you're there, it's
Green Room. I came in late to my screening for
How
Green
dare
Room
you,
at the
sir?
ArcLight Hollywood.
Are you talking about
I
Swiss
missed the
Army
first,
Man? Because you did mention that one.
No, that too, but I tend to be late for things by a couple of minutes.
You tend to be late for a lot of things. This show
yeah,
included.
that's what I'm saying. And so I'm not late for things, I'm late to things, if that makes sense. Like, I'm usually on the cutting edge in terms of not just what we cover on the show, but keeping up to date. And I think because I do that, I prioritize that instead of actually being on time, which used to be the opposite. I used to always be on time.
It would be helpful for me if we started on time, just saying.
Tardiness isn't a crime, though, and I don't think a movie theater should.
No, but hey,
I'd rather miss every trailer. I'd rather miss every trailer than miss a minute or two of the show.
No, well, fair enough. I mean, I'm just, for me, it is a good thing, at least when you're watching the movie, and that's one of those small things where the last time I went to a non-Alamo theater, I went to an AMC, I think, earlier this year, and I mean, just the little differences on what I get there, they did strike me. But anyway, I missed it, whatever. I might get to it at some point this week, and it's not a big deal. But basically, I was there.
You're not missing much.
And I wanted to see a movie,
That's
and
true.
there's this anime movie that came out in the States I want to say it was a month and a half to 2 months ago, called Your Name, which was a huge hit in Japan. I think it's the 4th highest grossing movie there of all time. It's the highest grossing anime of all time worldwide. It's already a huge hit. It made most of its money last year in the summer. Came out in the States to have its run, and people just wouldn't shut up about it. Like, I went into it fairly blind, not seeing a trailer or anything, and basically all I know is that it was this huge hit, and everyone kept saying, "Oh, the ending made me fucking cry," So that's
so
hyperbolic
it's
enough
Logan?
as it is.
It's Logan.
It's actually more emotional than that. But you know what? First off, no, I did not cry. but I was moved. But what this is, it's very weird, because I'm not into anime at all, and just based on the concept alone, what this is about. Let me start there. There's a boy that lives in the city in Tokyo, and then a girl that lives in the country, and they both have their own issues and whatever. They're growing up, and then inexplicably, they switch bodies, and then this is
we've all seen one of these before.
We've all seen body swap
17
things, but,
again. Parent
but here's the thing
Trap.
this is what's different about it, though, is that it happens constantly and they can't predict when it's going to happen at all for them. So, they figure out what the situation is, what's going on, and then they start leaving each other notes to plan out how to protect their existence. And then, they learn stuff about each other. And then, it's kind of a cute romance because they end up kind of liking each other along the way. And there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of different genres at play here. There's elements of mystery, there's elements of time travel. It gets really crazy, but it is, really, really emotional and really moving as it goes along, and you get to learn more about just these characters. And there's a lot of comedy here. It's a very, it's anime and it's kind of out there, but it is really, really accessible. Really, I can't buy this movie for $1 just because I don't feel that urge, but I was really entertained by it. And it's like, it's not a dime a dozen. It's something in between where I wasn't blown away by it, but I was really actually impressed with it and how entertaining it was, and just how good of a crowd pleaser it was. And even though it's on its last legs and has 2 showings a day, I was in a very small theater, but even that theater was sold out. So there was a lot of people that were into it.
This is the in-between rate. We're going to call them silver dollars.
That's good. Actually, it's the silver dollar.
It's because it's worth $1, but I wouldn't buy it.
But actual silver dollars aren't those worth a lot?
No, that's today. Once upon a time, it was literally just worth $1 in the same way that Susan B. Anthony's or the gold like Sacagawea or presidential coins are. It was just $1. It was just made out of silver because hey, back then the gold standard money was based off of actual materials. So the idea is. It's worth $1, but I'm not going to buy it.
No, fair enough. That is a good one. I'll go with that silver dollar. But what this movie is that even though not many people here are going to see it in the States, streaming is going to be that perfect venue for people to watch this. And that's probably how a lot of people are going to...
If it's streaming. It depends where it lands.
It seems like it could be a Netflix or an Amazon flick. And just...
Netflix doesn't really have anime.
I could totally see this where, anime is kind of a hard thing to sell for some people, but... for people that are hardcore anime fans and are into a bunch of other stuff and they want to expose people to some stuff that's more accessible, I'm willing to bet that this is going to be one of those ones where they're going to try to, get people turned on to this stuff by starting with this, because this is really accessible.
Well,
and it really is smart just how scripted it is and how it plays with narrative. And, there are some, I guess, stylistic choices that maybe I'm just not privy to based on the art form itself, but man, it's a really good movie, honestly, and I'm just, by the time that it starts streaming, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to start watching it, and I'm probably going to see more and more Facebook statuses of how people are like, oh, you have to check this out, it's so good, it made me cry, and because that's already like a bunch of the crap I'm already seeing. And hey, if it works like that for some people, that's good. It did not break me down, but hey, it's really good, and I was really into it.
Well, if it's truly one of those anime things that even people that don't like anime might like, you want to Tyler a line, maybe it will be a Tainami selection. But talking about podcasts, I'm kind of known for not listening to them outside of ours and very few. I definitely don't do it on a regular basis. But I found one this week on accident that I might start listening to. It's called 80s All Over. You might have stumbled upon this yourself. Mm-hmm. It's done by Scott Weinberg and Drew McSweeney, so they're big on the internet in terms of film criticism circles. The idea behind this podcast is fucking awesome. It's a chronicle month by month, and it's a film breakdown across the 80s by guys that were actually there. So January 1980 all the way to December 1989, they do 12 episodes, and then they have a best of the year. And then I'm sure they'll have specials along the way. If you back them on Patreon, they have interviews, most notably with, so far anyway, with Leah Thompson, where they talk about Howard the Duck and lots of other different things. the episode that I listened to, I think it was like their most recent one. So I want to say it was like May 1981 or something. It's a fairly new show. They just started, so there's lots to cover. But I really like the idea of a show that has a natural end. And I think that's something that I'm going to want to create in the near future. Like, just like stealing this idea and doing a 2000s one. Like, how fun it would be to go from January 2000 to December 2009. The thing to note, though, is they put a lot of work into this, which is why they have so many Patreon backers already. And you can go to, if you just Google 80s all over, you'll find it. They're not on as many services as we are. Maybe I should drop them a line and be like, hey, I want to listen to this on Google Play Music, and I can't. And they'll get on it. Right now, I think it's just their website and iTunes. But they literally cover like everything from big movies to made-for-TV movies to exploitation, direct to VHS, underground. So the episode that I was listening to, they were covering Roar, some shit that I never heard of. What was there was some Western titled movie that I can't remember, and they did this gag where it's like, how many movies can you think of that were named after a country song? And they're like, oh yeah, Stagecoach, like this, that, and one that they didn't do is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. But yeah, just real fun listening to these guys talk because they're so passionate about movies. And just them going, yeah, like my grandma, she recorded 3 things for me. She had HBO and she'd pop the VCR, she'd put a VHS tape in, just record something when she was sleeping. So she gave me this VHS tape one night, and it had Friday the 13th Part 2, and then it had some other movie, and then this thing. And like the other 2 are super like rare, weird examples, and it kind of it's Scott Weinberg going in. This is why I know so many. Well, he doesn't do it, but he's built up by Drew as for why he knows so many subgenres of horror. Just really fun. I'm sure this is the kind of podcast that you can write down these movies, even if they sound really bad, and just kind of get an idea. Because Roar is something that is probably going to show up on Dead to Cinema eventually.
I almost picked it because they had a screening here, but that didn't happen.
I need to see it someday.
Yeah.
I'm happy that it's
crazy,
available now.
You know?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like a literal
the
exploitation
Disney snuff
film.
film Swiss Army Robinson quote. That's really what makes me want to see that.
I just want to see what it's like
and
when
just
you
how crazy that concept. When Tippi Hedren getting
taking a
attacked by
family
lions, like,
and putting them in this house with real lions and just
they're
going
shooting it for 12
film it.
years. Like that's
film it. Can't.
I have to.
It can't
see
be
it,
bad.
Yeah. It's messed up.
It's got to be one of those films that it's like, oh man, this is
It can't
Death to
be
Cinema.
Well, yeah, it's amazing that we finally got it because it was on the shelf for years in the States.
Decades.
Yeah.
Decades. It didn't get a theatrical release. It never has.
Only in Europe.
Yeah, which is
They
so
played
weird.
in Europe.
So yeah, I can't buy their podcast yet because I've only listened to one episode, but I don't think that's a right thing to even say for a podcast too. Maybe, well, unless it's like serialized, but it's really interesting. I definitely want to listen to another episode. I'm curious for when, it's probably going to take a couple years for when they get to 1985 because they do what they do.
You want to get to what? Back to the Future and
well, just 85 is a really strong year for movies. Like most of the 80s movies that I like
is probably
come from
the
85.
best year for movies.
There's a lot of good years in the 80s.
I think 82 is probably the best year for the 80s. There's The Thing, there's Tron, there's Blade Runner, there's E.T., there's Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. What else? There's so many more that I know can be named. Like 82 is probably the one year where there's so many classics that just came out in a single year as far as genre.
That's the cool thing about their show, though, is that not only do they do the research to dig up all of these films, but they actually watch the ones, especially the ones that they never saw, and they're giving these just super honest, and it's short. Like it depends how big the movie is. So when they did Roar, they're talking about that for like a solid 10 minutes, But for like the smaller things that like no one else knows about, maybe they'll skip over that in like 3 minutes or something. But in like the hour and a half or hour runtime, whatever each of these episodes are, they cover so much territory. It's too fast almost, and it's you can just tell how much time they commit to this. That they're like one of their Patreon goals, if they get there, is that they're gonna write a book for every year in the decade too, which would be awesome. Like just having these long essays about particular like weird things. I know they did like a segment on Popeye where I'm guessing that they were actually really positive on it. Yeah,
A lot of people love that movie.
I've tried watching it. It's so weird. I mean, it killed New Hollywood. That and
I'm
Heaven's
gonna
Gate.
have to give it a chance.
Well, see, that's a good
No,
point.
it's
'cause
really Heaven's Gate.
everyone hates Heaven's Gate, and I really liked it. So I don't.
hate Heaven's Gate. It was really,
It's long.
it really dragged.
Yeah, it's
to
long.
no purpose. Yeah.
But just the production value,
Oh yeah.
the roller rink, the
I know you
roller
love that.
skating, man. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents, a recap of what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on Dead to Cinema, where one or both of us crosses a title off our list of shame.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the Love You site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.